Welcome to Greed Confessions, a business channel that talks about money mistakes, wealth building success, secrets, and how to stay broke or build wealth. This channel is about real life money stories and the psychology of behind financial success. Subscribe now because your next financial breakthrough might be just a confession away. Okay, so picture this. You are walking through Quiapo in the 1950s. It is crowded, noisy, chaotic, full of people buying, selling, bargaining, surviving. And somewhere in the middle of all that movement, there's a small shoe store. Not a mall, not a billion peso corporation, not a company that would one day own some of the most valuable commercial land in the Philippines. Just shoes. Men's shoes, women's shoes, school shoes, work shoes, practical stuff, nothing glamorous. But behind that counter was Henry C., a Chinese immigrant who understood one thing very clearly. If you want to build wealth in a country where people are constantly trying to stretch every peso, don't start by selling luxury. You start by selling what people need. And from that single idea, the C family built SM. Wow, SM. Today, SM is not just a retail company. It is malls, banks, supermarkets, condominiums, hotels, logistics, and a massive real estate development. SM Investment traces its roots to Henry C's ShoeMart, which began as a shoe store in Manila in 1958. Well, SM Prime later became one of the country's dominant property players. So the real question is not, how did a shoe store become successful? The real question is, how did a shoe store become one of the biggest landlords in the Philippines? This is not a get-rich easy scheme. This from rags to riches, a masterclass environment, timing, and buying when everyone else is afraid. Henry C. did not begin with a real estate vision. He began with retail. In the early days, his business was simple. Buy shoes, sell shoes, repeat. But the genius was not just in the product, it was in the discipline. Most retailers make money, expand a little, improve their lifestyle, and stop there. Henry C. kept reinvesting. More inventory, better locations, bigger stores, more categories. Shoes became apparel. Apparel became department store merchandise. The store became a destination. And this is important. He was not just selling products. He was studying foot traffic. Who came in? What did they buy? How often did they return? What else did they need? How far would they travel for convenience? The data, before people even call it data, became the foundation of SM's empire. Because if you understand where customers already go, eventually you realize something powerful. The real money is not only in selling to customers, the real money is owning the place where the customers gather. Now here it is where the story gets seriously interesting. In 1972, the Philippines entered martial law. Politically, uncertainty was everywhere. Capital was leaving the country. Business families were nervous. Many people with money were trying to protect it, not deploy it. And Henry C. did the opposite. He opened his first full department store in Quiapo in 1972, shortly after martial law was declared. Later accounts quote C describing the period as a time of heavy capital fight, yet he still chose to build. Think about how insane that is. People were worried about instability. He was expanding. People were waiting for clarity. He was buying space. People were trying to reduce exposure. He was increasing his bet on the Filipino consumer. That was not blind optimism. That was calculated greed. He understood something many others missed. Political cycle changes, but ordinary people still need shoes, clothes, needs groceries, school supplies, appliances, and eventually places to spend their weekends. So while other families saw crisis, C saw discounted opportunity. That pattern repeated again and again. After the 1983 assassination of Benigno Aquino Jr., another period of national uncertainty followed. And what did he do? He pushed forward with SM City North EDSA, which opened in 1985 and became the first SM Supermall. At this time, North EDSA was not obvious, glamorous choice. It was not Makati. It was not the polished business center. It was a large site in Quezon City, a country dealing with political tension and economic stress. But that was exactly the point. Land was available, competition was cautious, the middle class was growing, public transportation routes mattered, families needed accessible retail, and C was willing to build for the future before the future looked obvious. That is the move, not just retail, real estate anchored by retail. SM's model became incredibly powerful because the mall was not a mere building, it was an ecosystem. Department stores, supermarkets, food courts, cinemas, banks, parking for convenience, later condos, offices, hotel, convention centers, and entire mixed-use district. Every piece fed the next piece. A shopper becomes a depositor. A depositor becomes a condo buyer. A condo resident became a supermarket consumer. A mall visitor becomes a tenant's customer. A tenant pays rent. The rent funds the next one. That is the flywheel. I'm so exhausted trying to talk, but he is very smart person. And here's the turning point that separated SM from every other Filipino retail family. A lot of families knew retail, knew stores, understand merchandising, but SM made one crucial leap. It converted retail cash flow into property ownership at scale. That is the difference between being a successful seller and becoming a national landlord. If you only sell products, your income depends heavily on margin. You buy inventory, sell it, restock, manage labor, fight competition, repeat forever. But if you own them all, the economics change. Now other brands pay your rent, restaurants pay your rent, banks, retailers, competitors eventually pay you rent, and that is completely different game. SM did not abandon retail. It used retail as the engine to accumulate location and use locations to attract tenants, justify more malls, getting more land, building more residence offices, and lifestyle development. And that is why SM has became so hard to compete. So what did we learn from the C family story? 1. Cash flow is powerful, but reinvested cash flow is how empires are built. Henry C did not treat profit as the finish line, he treated it as a fuel. Number 2, crisis rewards people with liquidity and courage. During martial law, many businesses became defensive. C expanded. Does not mean every crisis is an opportunity. It means that when you understand your customer deeply, uncertainties can create openings. Number 3, the best business often move from transactions to platform. A shoe store earns from each sale, a mall earns from the entire marketplace, a real estate ecosystem earns from behavior, movement, rent, financing, and time. Number 4, ownership beats activity. Many retailers work hard, SM owned the locations where everyone else worked hard. And 5, Filipino consumers was the real bet. Not just shoes, not just malls, not just condos. The core belief was the Philippine consumption would grow for decades, and SM positioned itself directly in front of that growth. That is how a small store, shoe store in Quiapo became SM. Not overnight, not by luck, not by just selling shoes. Well, that's what started, but eventually the store is a city within a city that has needs.
Greed Confessions, where the truth cost extra. Shh.